Hey, and a very warm welcome to the Into the LightWeb podcast with me, your hostess, Joanna Hunter, metaphysical teacher, spiritual life and business coach, published author, and the high priestess of the LightWeb, a spiritual technology that will change your life. This is the place to be to talk everything under the LightWeb, from consciousness, relationships, to money, to spiritual business, and everything in between. My next guest is an incredible human who has gone from maternity leave to self-made millionaire in just 3 years. I am introducing here on the $1 Million Lab series, right here on the Into the LightWeb podcast, the beautiful Natasha Bray, who is an award-winning success mastery coach and transformational pioneer in the business success industry. She helps high-achieving women really release the burdens of childhood wounds and traumas, and she really helps them to up level through her 4-level healing approach. So I'm so excited to dig in to talking about some really juicy topics inside this podcast. So here is my podcast with the beautiful Natasha Bray. Hi, everybody. It's Joanna here with another podcast of the $1 Million Lab, and I am joined by the gorgeous Natasha Bray today, and I'm so excited to have this guest on. She is a multi-award winning coach and therapist, and she also is an absolute kick-ass entrepreneur. I cannot wait to share her story of how she went from maternity leave to $1 million business in just under 3 years. So super exciting. Hi, Natasha. Welcome.
Hi, lovely. Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Good. Come and tell us a little bit about yourself. Introduce yourself to people who might not have come across you yet, or they don't really know who you are yet. Come and share a little bit about what you do and what your business is all about.
Yeah, sure. So I'm a success mastery coach. Now, some of you might not know what that means, so I'll share a little bit more about that. But essentially, I help women entrepreneurs to unlock what I call the ultimate up level, which is about up leveling financially, emotionally, and spiritually. Because I see a common pattern in entrepreneurship where we're so focused on up leveling our business that it comes to a sacrifice at other areas of our lives, like our health or our relationships. And I personally went on that journey myself, and that's where this concept of the ultimate up level came from. Up leveling in all areas so that you can have true success or success mastery. So success without that sacrifice and that sabotage that tends to happen. So that's what I do and who I am in a nutshell. But I also teach my methods to other therapists as well. So I use a mix of therapy, spiritual healing, coaching, and mentoring to help my clients get the results that they get. And I've developed my own methods over the last couple of years, especially, and I bring that to teaching other therapists how to also get much better results with their clients too.
Oh, fantastic. I know that you've been super successful in the last few years, but it didn't start like that, because you were successful in another business, but it was a business that you were working very intensively in. Will you tell people a little bit about that? Because you had a real pivot in your career. And I really think this is so exciting and interesting, because sometimes the road of entrepreneurship is not always like completely straight. I mean, I had a background in retail, I had brick and mortar businesses, and then I, ended up in the coaching industry, which I feel like this is home now for me. But I know that you've done different things before where you are now. So tell people a little bit about how that went.
Well, where my business first began is very, very different to what I do now. I began my first business around 6.5 years ago, I think now. And that was actually making healthy food in my kitchen, which is so different. I don't think you'd expect to hear that. I used to make my own health foods for myself because I had food intolerances. And anyone who tasted this healthy food didn't even realize it was healthy because it tasted so good. And that's where sort of that guilt-free goodies, that's what it's called. That's where it came from.
Okay.
it literally was me making this food in my kitchen. First of all, just selling it to people I knew, and then it evolved to posting it all over the UK. And I loved it. I absolutely loved it. But, selling lower priced products, of course, means that the profitability was capped. And I looked into factory production and things like that, but it just wasn't really a route that I wanted to go down. I think it would have lost the special touch.
Yeah.
So there was like a ceiling on that business. But I absolutely loved what I did. But for quite a long time, so that developed into more than just food. It was linked to then health coaching as well. So that's where my coaching in business began, but I've always worked in transformational careers, social work. I was a therapeutic social worker. I worked in homelessness services for many years, helping people change. So what we would look at the most traumatized people in society, actually. So people who've had a lot of trauma and they've ended up with alcohol addictions, drug addictions, as well as having severe mental health issues as well. So my job was to go in and help them, help resettle them, help them transform. So I've always worked in that line of work, just not in a business capacity until started with the health coaching. And it was actually that led to this career now, because what I could see was women who had struggles with health and food, it was often because of addiction anyway. All addiction stems from the same place. So I transferred those skills into my business, essentially.
Okay.
So
when did you realize, like when you had that kind of epiphany that, because I know that you worked a lot of hours with your food business, and as you've mentioned, there's the profitability, and I know that firsthand because I used to have a cafe, and it is a lot of bums on seats before you start to see plus signs in your profit margins. So, and obviously we use really good quality ingredients. I can imagine that you used, you were working with people with food intolerances, you use high quality ingredients. It makes your profit margins many. So you're working all these hours, you're doing all this stuff, you're loving what you're doing, but at the same time, it's kind of like, it's not quite bringing home what you wanted. And, but then you're starting to go into the coaching. So at what point was there I suppose in a way what I'm asking, was there an actual point where you were like, I have to change, or was there a point where you just kind of gradually moved into it?
I think the sort of biggest influence on like this summit needs to change in this business, because it was all product based mostly for a while, was when I was on maternity leave.
Okay.
And it's like I had this deep knowing that my business was my purpose, but it wasn't really in a position where I could leave my job to solely rely on it. So that's when I knew, like, I need to ramp this up a bit. I need to change something here. And that desire to not want to go back to a full-time career with a new baby and juggling my business also on the side was a big motivator for me. So I think that was the point where, it was like something needs to change here. Like I can't carry on this way. And also what happened was I'd had quite a traumatic birth with my son. So I had postnatal depression and birth trauma. So I was experiencing all that and still trying to build my business at the same time.
Goodness.
Before I had to go back to work after maternity leave. So it was like a race against time, And there was this.
You were an amazing woman when I introduced you, and that really is testament, because it is, that's a lot of things on one plate, and that's amazing.
Thank you, Hen. It was. But what actually happened was I grew my business 25% in that time, which doesn't sound like a lot, but considering everything that
it's good. It's a quarter.
It was almost like this light bulb moment. Well, if I can grow my business 25% when I'm in the depths of postnatal depression, what can I do when I'm well? So it was a bit like, you've got so much more in you, Natasha. You can do this, And so I actually ended up going back to work only for 3 days, because I was signed off work with postnatal depression then. but it was almost like that was meant to happen to show me like my true path, because I was holding on to the security blanket of the job.
Yeah.
Even though I knew my business was where I was meant to be. And I think a lot of people do that. It's almost like sometimes we leave it to like a crisis moment to finally
No, absolutely. Because I think it's like it's like what you said, the security blanket. It's like on this side we have regular money and holidays, and on this side we have the unknown, and we kind of like it, even though we know we're betting on ourselves, even though we know that we're going to do everything in our power not to let ourselves down, still the unknown. And it's such a but I think, this is where, people that have said, fortune favors the brave. And I really do think that courage plays such an essential role in making bold decisions for yourself that work out amazing. And we know that your story works out, it's like crazy, the growth. So you went back those 3 days, you were like, this is not my path. And you ended up really kind of probably chips on the table, all in. To your path. How did it unfold from there?
Well, it was like lots of things happened at that same time. I just moved into a new home. I split up with my son's dad, so I'd become a single mum also, and I'd gone back to work, and it was almost like that was the straw that broke the camel's back. But also it was absolutely meant to happen that way, because I would still probably be trying to do it all now. And I did, I want to be honest, I had this fear moment where I thought, what the hell have I done, when I handed in my notice? And I started looking for another job that was like below my skill level, part-time, just because when I realized this is just fear trying to keep me safe now, and realized that was a fear response, I was able to just calm myself down and say, no, just give it a year. If it doesn't work, you can always go back to your social work career. And I had this deep knowing that I was meant to be working with business women, but not as a business coach. And I didn't understand, what is this? I don't really know how I'm meant to be working with business women if it's not as a business coach. So there was this knowing that I was meant to be doing something different, but I wasn't quite sure what at the time. So that was August 2017. So 3.5 years ago, roughly. By July 2018, that's when I started doing this work that I do now with business women, more on a therapeutic level. So it's helping them unlock business success and success in their life as well, but more as a therapeutic role than a business coach.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
So it all made sense in the end when it finally happened. And in that, I think within 9 months of leaving my job, I'd grown my business to 6 figures.
That's amazing. I want to touch on something that you said, because this is something that I've used for myself, and I've used it for some of my VIP clients. You said, just give it a year. And I did this for myself. I said to myself, right, I'm going to build this new business. I had built 4 6-figure businesses, and I'd had my huge burnout. And then, when I decided to build this business, I decided to build it from a very conscious energy, very self-aware energy. But I also gave myself that container of a year and said, I'm going to go all in, chips on the table. I am going to go all in and do this for the year. And for me, it was a very, very powerful thing. And I've used it a couple of times with clients where they've been, when you get somebody who threatens to get the job, they're like, I'm just going to get a job. I'm like, right, take the job off the table. 1 year, fully focused, no more beating yourself up when you get scared that you say, well, I'm just going to get a job. Instead, no job for a year. You're going to really focus on this and do and see what we can create. And in that time frame, some of my clients have literally, one of my clients in 8 months brought in $1 million. And this was a woman who was telling me 8 months previous, I think I might just get a job. And it was wow. It was incredible. Do you feel like that, giving yourself that time frame, was a kind of really important ingredient in what you did? You really sounded like you were you took that pressure off yourself of the job, because I think quite often saying that we're going to get a job is like a self-sabotage plus a safety blanket all rolled into one.
Well, your mind is hardwired to keep you safe. So when when you've just thrown everything you've ever known, like the normal lifestyle, the regular monthly income, the relationship was gone also. So my house went down to just a one income household then. So it was just like everything I'd known changed. But your mind is hardwired to keep you safe. So you've just got to reassure it that it's okay for me to do this. I can do this. I'm going to survive. There's a backup plan. So if the backup plan's in a year time, it's almost like you're calming your mind and giving yourself permission to give it that year.
Yeah, I think it's such a powerful thing. And I know, and I mean, this is something that we've done within the $1 Million Experiment, is really giving people that year. It's like, it's a year to really, really go for it. It's a year to be like, my chips are on the table. I'm going all in. I'm betting on myself. I'm doing it. And I think it's lovely to hear that was something that you did, because, you know, in 9 months, there you are at 6 figures. I mean, that was like freaking phenomenal. But you just didn't stop there. You have kept going.
No, I didn't.
What has happened in the last year? It's literally just gone boom.
It has. So the business grew to 6 figures, and that was still mostly the health business. And I moved in that July 2018. So in the last 2.5 years, I've been focused more on this work with business women. Exactly the same work I used to do in health, because it's the same underlying issues that are affecting people's businesses. It's all about self-love, self-trust, self-worth, all of these things that underpin how we show up and how we take action in our businesses. So it was all the same things that affect people's issues with food and their health, just transferred to a different area. So in the last year specifically, we've now turned over $1 million this year alone. So that doesn't include, last year was around the sort of $500,000 mark. So we've doubled during a pandemic, doubled the business revenue to $1 million, which is crazy.
It is. And I mean, what a wonderful achievement. One absolute congratulations. What a wonderful achievement. And one of the things is, you know, you touched on saying, you know, you have to give yourself permission. Like, do you feel like that had been a continuous process? Like every time you felt like you were up leveling, every time that you were bringing in more clients than you'd ever brought in before, was that like this series of permissions, or was it unconscious or conscious in that way that you were moving with the energy in a way?
I definitely think it was a series of reminding myself I'm safe and that it's okay for me to go to this next level. This is what I want. But also the giving permission thing, because that's huge. You know, we spend most of our life doing what we think other people want us to do, not what we really want to do. So a lot of, when I had my food business, I knew that even my food business, I was healing people. In every business I've had, I'm helping people heal. And I knew there was some sort of bigger purpose to it all. But I had people in my family saying, well, you didn't go to university to be making health food in your kitchen. Like there was like this disapproval that I was getting for.
Okay.
And, people think that you're scamming people online or something. You know, the impression of people who are not in the business industry, especially not in the online business industry, they don't quite understand what it is that you're doing. And one particular person who was more like a parental figure to me, I remember feeling like I was disappointing him by not following the path of university and staying in my social work career. So the path that that he had set out as being the best path for me. So a lot of it is around giving yourself permission to just do what you want and stop pleasing others and do what's going to truly make you happy.
Yeah, I think that's really, I mean, the inner people pleaser. And I always say that, you know, like I had a very ferocious type of people pleaser in me. And I think many people do have that. They can empathize with that. And so it is that really getting to that place in that stage where you can finally own all of who you are, and you can own that it's okay for you to follow. And I think the reason why I burned out in my first businesses was because of that people pleaser. The healing journey came afterwards. And that was a series of giving myself the permission to listen to my own advice above others, and not always have to. Before I think I was always looking for the outside expert, and then it's like starting to look for the internal expert instead, and transferring that roles, I suppose, in a way. And it's nice to hear that that's what you've been able to help women with as well, because I think it's so important to bring our lives to an inner expert as opposed to always, we can look outside for guidance, and coaches like ourselves that do the job is really good. But I feel like when you become codependent on your coach, not a good thing, right? It's about giving somebody the tools to become self-empowered.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
So you've talked a little bit about just knowing that this was your path and knowing things like that. So I'm going to dig into some of the intuition things that I want to know, because here in the $1 Million Lab, we are really asking that question, is can mindset and intuition make you a millionaire? And obviously mindset, big agenda on your docket, but also as well, you sound like you're really about intuition as well and following that intuitive guidance. How important are those to you?
Huge, absolutely huge. Like the more that I've followed my intuition in business, the more successful I've become. And the more I've healed myself, the stronger my intuition has also become. It's almost like the more you heal your wounds, the things that are blocking your intuition, the clearer it then becomes for you. And yeah, I'm a coach. I use coach as the easiest way to describe what I do. It's a bit of a mix of everything, of course, but I'm a coach. I believe in coaching. I believe coaches are important, but in the same way that you do, I like to only work with someone for a short space of time to give them that boost that they need so that they can go off and, like you say, be empowered to do things for themselves rather than a codependent type relationship.
Kind of anti-business, except it works really well in business. But I totally get you. Like my success is when somebody that I've been working with and coaching with feel like they're ready. They feel like I feel so good now. I'm good to go out into the world, and I see them, and it's like when they fly the nest. I'm so proud.
Yeah. I think I also went through that same thing as you, where I placed too much emphasis on other people to direct my business. And then as I was going through this healing journey myself, and the more I healed, the more strong my intuition became, but the more successful I also became at the same time. It was because I was following my inner coach, which is the best coach you'll ever have,
Absolutely.
It's not to say that a coach is not important, because we do need that external view a lot of the time and extra guidance.
The process. Like it's so important, isn't it? Just to have somebody that can hold your hand and guide you and help you to lead yourself, because we've been conditioned not to lead ourselves. We don't feel well, we go to a doctor. Our teeth are sore, we go to a dentist. I don't know how to do something. Well, let me check Google. Like very rarely is the advice that we are given by society. How do you feel about that? Check inside yourself. We're always looking for this external piece. And then, and so we're conditioned to look for the external piece. And I think, by finding a great coach or somebody who really is about empowerment, that isn't somebody who's wanting to keep you on their books forever. That's somebody who is going to help you internalize things in a positive way, where you can become your own inner expert again and reconnect with that inner expert, reconnect with that inner guidance, and then get to the place where you can actually start to consult yourself, because it's overriding quite powerful conditioning. Because all of society, like I always think about like even a paracetamol, like taking paracetamol for your headaches, again looking for that external source. Very rarely have we thought, well, what could be the underlying cause of my headache? It's like, let me just take this pill, let me just do this thing, and then so we look for the easy fix.
I agree. The whole what I found was that and what I found I was doing was I was wanting a coach to give me permission. Then it was like moved away from, and this is all linked to stuff that I work on a lot with my clients around parent wounds.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
And how that can transfer to the types of coaches sometimes that we work with when we haven't healed our wounds, essentially. So we're expecting the coach to give us permission the same way a parent might give us permission.
Yes. That is very juicy, and I love that. And I feel, I talk about something that I call the 5 primal fears, and that we're absolutely hardwired to really pay attention to these fears, because the fears are all about survival. And that the one that I call the bonus fear is the tribal fear, where we're really hardwired to keep in good position with the tribe. So it starts with the parents. We have to keep in good position with the parents so that the parents don't reject us, so that the rest of the community don't. And it's all part of a very, very old part of our brain, the amygdala, really trying to keep you very, very safe. But, nowadays we don't live in the familial villages and groups that we used to live in like caveman days and stuff. So it's a very, very different landscape for us. And yet we're almost navigating with this, like, I always think that our bodies are like the most sophisticated bio machine on the planet, with million-year-old software running the show sometimes.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting that you're talking about people then picking a coach, which is almost like a proxy for the parent when the parent wounds aren't healed.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really juicy. That's really interesting, because I think, I can see how that works out sometimes. And we are hardwired to please our parents. Which is why it's so traumatic when that relationship is perhaps not a good relationship.
Yeah, with parents and coaches, because there's a mix of good and bad in the coaching world, as with any profession.
Absolutely. So I think one of the things I would really love to chat with you about is a bit more about trauma, because I think, I'm thinking about all my guests that I've got, and we don't have as many people like really probably qualified to really dig into the trauma in the way that you dig into that, because that is a very juicy thing. Because trauma, I feel, goes beyond self-limiting beliefs. It's something that really, really impacts self-limiting beliefs, but it is usually has a more kind of devastating effect in the fact that we often tend to replay our traumas. Would you agree with that?
Completely. When someone comes to me with an adult life trauma, so I've had clients who've had coaches, really bad relationships there, or violent relationships in romantic relationships, that relationships with narcissists, these types of things. There's always a childhood root cause of that. So I'm always looking for what is the pattern, like who is the original relationship with. Everything that I do is around healing relationships, and I think that's really important to healing trauma. It's not just about the experience and the beliefs that come from that experience. It's going deeper on the heart level and healing the relationships.
Yes, yeah, and I think and often as well, there's a lot of unhealed emotions that are held in the relationship as well. A lot of people talk about forgiveness work and things, and my spirit team Skylar have this really beautiful saying, which I love, which is all forgiveness becomes obsolete in the face of full acceptance. And I love that, because, it is moving somebody to that place of acceptance. Like, I accept this happened to me, but I don't need to accept that I was deserving. And I think that's the key, isn't it? Because I think sometimes what happens when we've been in these traumatic relationships, we somehow start to buy the lie and the idea that somehow we did something that deserved that.
It's my fault. I'm wrong. I'm bad in some way, and this is why it's happened to me. But it's not true. None of it's true. I love that you said that. We're really aligned, because there's almost this thing in the coaching industry where, like, you have to forgive, and I truly don't believe that we have to forgive to be able to move on. And I often talk about the power of acceptance and how that's more powerful than forgiveness.
It is for me, because if you think about forgiveness, like, we're going right into a tangent here, but this is really lovely. I love this, because if we think about forgiveness, there's always, in order to forgive someone, you always need to have and this is why forgiveness never really fully resonated with me, because there always needs to be blame with forgiveness. Because otherwise, you like, if you weren't blaming someone, why would you need to forgive them, right? And so if you need to forgive someone, like, there's always blame, and blame to me is like the ultimate way that we leak and hemorrhage our power. While we can be somebody's fault, and that's like the differentiating, and I think a lot of people have very difficult with this, but it can be someone's fault, someone else's fault, that something bad happened to you. But when you insist on blaming them, it's staying in that place of the original trauma, of the original hurt. And when we become willing to accept that happened, we can move beyond the trauma. And I think, and so forgiveness, it is a pathway to acceptance, but it is not acceptance. Acceptance is the ultimate goal of forgiveness. But while we're still in that energy of forgiveness, we also have to hold in our energy systems the energy of blame. And while we hold that energy, we stay in a disempowered state.
It's not to say that forgiveness isn't useful, of course, but
no, it is useful. But I think I've had many clients, and you probably find this too. I've had many clients who have found I cannot forgive, and then when I've worked with them and can you accept? Oh yeah, I can do that. Then they can move forward.
And it's almost like you can't move on if you can't forgive, but also the common saying is forgive and forget. And actually, you can't always forget. It's almost like they have to come together, but actually, no, because I can't forget, so therefore I can't forgive. I
think people are forgiveness can be quite toxic, I think, sometimes. This idea that you're going to play nice, isn't it? It's I think when somebody has got to the stage where they've got the courage to pick up their lives, pick up their pieces, start rebuilding, and then, they meet a teacher that really insists on this forgiveness. And it's kind of a bit like you said, forgive and forget. They've almost like they've become synonymous, and they go in together, and it's kind of like diminishing what happened to that person in a way. And forgiveness has its place. It's powerful work, but it's not powerful medicine for everyone. For some people, acceptance is going to be the thing. But I always think, like, whatever works, whatever gets you over the hump, like whatever it takes, whatever it works to get you over the hump, like, it's all good. And I feel for certain people, especially when the trauma has been really big, can we move into the feeling of acceptance that this happened to me? It's so powerful.
Yeah, definitely. And it was a big part of my own healing journey as well. But also it's like acceptance for the past, acceptance it wasn't your fault. And also acceptance that the person who hurt you in this way was like that before you ever came along.
Yes.
With nothing to do with you. There was nothing wrong with you. It doesn't mean anything about you. It was that person's wounds that made them that way.
Yes, I love that.
Acceptance that you can have a different future too.
Yeah. And I think also as well an aspect of the acceptance of the role that you played within the relationship. When I look at, I had quite a traumatic relationship with my father. When I look at that relationship, like, I now in hindsight realize that, like, he was the adult, I was the child, but I wasn't always the model child, because I was very reactive towards him. And I can accept my part in that now. But, it is, and in doing so, I've been able to gain so much power from that and move forward and say, okay, I it's done. And I accept my role in it as well. I know there's many times, like within arguments and stuff, that the energy of those lasted longer because I was so fighty.
Yeah, I get what you mean there. And I'm not sure what age you were when you're referring to these things, but also in those situations, it is the responsibility of the adult to be able to
completely
take the more responsible role in that situation, and
totally
try and what's the word I'm looking for? Try and end that argument before it gets too far, really.
Yeah, exactly. But in being able to take responsibility for my actions as well has been massively empowering for me in the future. I mean, one of my favorite things that, especially being on the internet and being out there, like you get a lot of keyboard warriors and things like that out there. And I think in taking personal responsibility for my own actions, one of my favorite sayings on the internet is, I am not the jackass whisperer. I do not need to convince someone who is being a keyboard warrior that, my opinion is right or it's okay. I can step away. Yeah, exactly. And that sometimes is the most loving thing that you can do for yourself instead of getting into it. There's times where you have to stand up for yourself, and there's times where actually the most loving thing is to say, you know what, I don't need to be part of that. And I think, in a way, when I was able to move into that acceptance for my role that I played in my own childhood and the pieces that I played and take responsibility for that, I was able to also move that as a positive thing going forward of being more in control of my energy, being more in conscious of my own energy and saying, well, do I really want to go down that route? Do I really, is there anything good? Is there anything that's going to benefit my life or good going to come out of me answering this person on the internet that I do not know?
Well, is that every action has a reaction, isn't it? Yes, and yes. If you don't take an action towards that, then there's not going to be another reaction to it.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I love the work that you do, Natasha, because I know that we have some clients that cross over and they always sing your praises. So tell us a little bit about what kind of courses and things like that you offer, so that that anybody who's been listening to this conversation on the podcast or seen us on YouTube, like what is, how can they get involved here?
So a big part of the work that I do is, and we kind of touched on it a little bit earlier, you called it the people pleaser, and I call it the overgiver success saboteur. Yeah. So what I identified on my own personal journey in business, growing to this level, and also with my clients, was 4 key success saboteurs that impact on entrepreneurs. And so a lot of my work, or my most powerful work, and something I'm really, really proud of, is my Ultimate Up Level Academy, where I take the clients. It's a group experience. We go through this journey of healing the 4 different success saboteurs that are most impacting on your business. So we heal the overgiver, which is the people pleaser, the part of us that wants to undercharge and overdeliver in our businesses. The imposter, which you've also touched on today as well, this lack of self-trust, always going to everybody else.
Yes,
for the answers rather than listening to our own answers and following our intuition. There's the outcast, which I think people will relate to, is around the visibility fear, really scared of being visible as who you really are in case you get rejected.
Yeah.
So that holds us back. And then we've got the hustler success saboteur as well, which I can tell with the burnout. Also me, I relate to that. It's been a big one for me. And the hustler is very linked in with this belief that you can't have it all. And you have to work really hard for what you got, which most of us grow up with that belief that you have to work hard. Because
think of the hustler motto. The motto will be like, you have to work hard for money. Like, it's such an ingrained piece, isn't it? Yeah, that's juicy.
And that's the employee mindset that we've all grown up with. That you are paid, you have to work hard, and you get paid an hourly rate. So you exchange your time for money. But it's very different with an online business, especially when you've got services, group programs, passive income. You can move away from that time for money model. So it's around healing those 4 different success saboteurs to be able to step up as a leader in your business, essentially. So I've got that, and I've got a few other sort of lower price self-study options for people, depending on where they're at in their business journey.
Fantastic. I love it. I feel like this has been such a juicy conversation, and a lot of things that come up. And I think it's really important that we deal with our traumas, because these are literally the biggest blocks to success. And as you said, those 4 success saboteurs, they are often birthed from trauma.
Yeah.
You know, they are literally wounds, and often they're what I call impacted wounds, which means that who we got them from were also wounded. So we tend to get them from our parents who,
yeah, definitely. That's a
you
big
know,
part of the work I do. It's around healing our parent wounds, especially. And you're right, those saboteurs, they develop in response to wounds or trauma in childhood. And they're actually there to defend us and to keep us safe, but they actually hold us back as an adult because we don't need them anymore. And they're affecting our business, our relationships, our health, all sorts. They affect every area of our life.
Yeah, I think one of the things I heard, which I really love, is that the same tools that helped you survive are not going to help you thrive. And I think there comes a point in every human being where they have survived their childhood. They have survived a certain thing. They have survived maybe early work, or they've survived being bullied at work, or whatever's happened to them. And the tools that they were using, like you're saying, the saboteurs, help you when you're in survival mode.
Yeah.
But when it comes to thriving, the success, feeling amazing, you're going to need a brand new toolbox. You cannot bring those tools and think that they're going to do the same job that they did for you in your survival, because they're not. They're actually what's going to prevent your survival from turning into success. And I think that that's a really key piece that you kind of brought up there. Before we tell people where to find you on the internet, I asked my community to ask questions.
Okay.
And these are just 3 questions that have come from my community. We're going to credit the people who have said them. They're just things that people want to know about building a 7-figure business. So I'm just going to dive into the questions. Now, I know you're a mama, so I'm going to ask this. Cleo Callahan has asked this question. This is for entrepreneurs with families. How did they balance the day-to-day grind of home life, which is sometimes more of a duty than a passion, she says, and carrying out their vision for their business and pushing through to get what they wanted or where they are today? So that is her question. We'll start off with a big question.
I know. Yeah. So for me, it's getting over this belief that you have to do everything yourself, and outsourcing as much as possible, not always in the business sense, but at home too.
Yes.
When my grandparents looked after my child, that was work time. They were on my team. I wasn't paying them to do that, but they were there to help out while I was in those earlier stages of building my business. He went to crash 2.5 days a week. I accepted benefits. I was on benefits at that time whilst I was growing my business. Like, as someone who'd always worked, I did feel a little bit like, part of me was like, I don't want to do this, but also I need to do this right now.
Yeah.
Because ultimately it's going to help me build a business where I'll be paying a lot more back into the community as a result.
Yes. Yeah.
It's like getting over this belief that we feel that we have to do it all ourselves and that we have to struggle to do it. What I've learned in this journey is that a lot more success comes from a place of love than from struggle.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And I also want to add in what you're saying there as well about outsourcing. Get yourself a cleaner.
My God, yeah.
Oh my God, isn't it?
It seems like such a little thing, but I had my cleaner start and I could only afford her once every 2 weeks when she first started. And I was pregnant with Jensen at the time. He's 4 now. And probably in the last few months, like I kept upgrading it. Then she came every week when I could afford her a bit more. And then I had someone come twice a week. And now I have a housekeeper. So like she's been upgraded from a cleaner to a housekeeper. I've got a housekeeper who comes 3 times a week now. But it all started off starting where you are and outsourcing before you're ready. Because part of the imposter in us believes that we have to be superwoman. We have to be able to have the house spotless, dinner on the table at a certain time, the kids looking perfect, and try and build a successful business at the same time. No one can do that. No one can do all that and be sane at the end of it.
Yeah, we can have it all. As long as we wake up and realize that we don't need to do it all.
Yes, I like
I
that.
think, I think, it's so, I think this is the thing, because as women now, I mean, like our roles have been so changed from the 1950s to where we are now, thank goodness. But at the same time, we're the 80s and the 90s told us we could have it all, but then there was still the 1950s brain operating the thing, saying, like you needed to be the one that cleaned your house, you needed to be the one that looked after your children, you needed to be the one that did it all.
Yeah.
And I think, in the 20s now that we're in the roaring 20s, I think we've got to wake up that we can have it all. We just don't need to do it all.
Yeah.
We can outsource that with people. So my next question is, what are your top 5 non-negotiables to becoming a millionaire? And that comes from Rachel Taylor.
Wow. Top 5 non-negotiables is working on yourself repeatedly. This is where the mindset, some people, I believe everybody needs trauma work. We've all been through some sort of trauma in our life that's affected us. The mindset is a good place to start, but also looking a bit deeper than that as well. And I am always working on myself. We're never a finished product. We're not something broken that needs to be fixed. We're continuously evolving and we're peeling away new layers each time we work on ourselves. So that's one of my non-negotiables. You've got to practice what you preach. If you're selling this kind of thing, you have to obviously be dedicated to it yourself. So whatever it is you sell and you promote, be your own best testimonial, essentially.
Oh, I love that.
So that's one. Put me on the spot, yeah.
I think that's 2. The first one's when you work on yourself, and then be your own best testimonial. I feel like that's about alignment.
Yeah, definitely.
3, hire cleaner.
And authentically selling what you do as well. It's very hard to sell something that you don't really truly practice and believe in.
Yes, definitely. You've got to be in that alignment. And I think that's what makes you your own best testimonial. If you're fully in alignment with what you're selling, like you love what you do, you're practicing it every day, it is your life. Like my work is my life. Yeah. You can even get a piece of paper between my work and my life. It's like so connected. And I think that's what's so important.
Yeah, definitely. We touched on it, outsourcing, but outsourcing before you're ready. I've left it too long sometimes, and I see it happening with a lot of the people I work with too.
I've done it too. Waited too long.
Yeah, but I kind of say, I used to say, I don't say this anymore, but short-term sacrifice for long-term gain. So you might have to take a little pay cut because you need to pay someone else to come in and help you. But it's just a short-term sacrifice. Like I wouldn't have this $1 million business I have now if it wasn't for the cleaner who started working once a fortnight for me. The lady who came to start making the food part-time when I was trying to develop the business further. So that kind of leads into the next one, which is around making sure that you have time on your business, not just in. Like we are addicted, a lot of us are addicted to work. We're addicted to being busy and doing all of the things.
And what was the saboteur for that? Because that's the employee mindset, isn't it?
The hustler, yeah.
The hustler, yes. The employee mindset rather than being the boss and bossing your business. Instead, you're like the employee, or what I used to refer to myself as the dog's body that did everything.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with that. It's almost like we come into business thinking this is going to be totally different to a career, but we are like the harshest boss on ourselves that we've ever had, pretty much. But yeah, starting to think more like a leader of a business, not the worker in the business.
Yes, I love that.
Giving yourself time on to develop the business. It's not just about your client time. And I made these mistakes myself. I remember the days of like 4 back-to-back 2.5-hour therapy sessions with clients. I could never do that now. So being a business, growing a business that level, I still love the one-to-one work. I still do the one-to-one work, but I wouldn't have been able to grow this much if I was still in that grind, only doing that every day.
Right. Yes. Yes. So
Um,
I love those non-negotiables. Where do we get up to? Is that about 4?
I think so.
Is there one more?
One more. Another non-negotiable. Oh, well, we touched on this as well. Following your intuition.
Oh,
Absolutely.
yes. Yes, of course.
My
It used to come so natural for us, so we just do it.
I know. Yeah. I every now and again when I'm not sure where to turn, yes, I might hire a coach who's got that level of expertise, but I also will sit down and free journal. I'll ask myself, where am I going next? And the stuff that comes through, it's insane. It's like the best, the best guidance you can ever get, and it's completely free.
Exactly.
So,
It's great, isn't it?
yeah, it's following your intuition and taking fast action on your intuition. That's important. It's not just about following it and listening to it. Take fast action on it because that idea has come up for a reason. That's come to you for a reason. So yeah.
But just like a bus, you have to catch it.
Mm,
You know, the intuition comes up, but if you sit on it and wait it's like standing at the bus stop and the buses are passing. And the
yeah.
bus is going to take you somewhere. So if you jump it, you jump on the bus when it's like fresh and it's there and it's exciting and everything like that. It will take you where you need to go. But sometimes intuition is this thing that you need to catch as opposed to, you know, that you can sit on it forever and I'll do it, I'll action it a year later.
Yeah.
Because the opportunity that the intuition is bringing in for you is to get you to a place where the next bus picks you up. And, you know, and you don't want to miss that one.
And you don't need all the answers to take the first step forward.
Yes. Yes. So true. So true. So final question. This is from Lauren Diane Scalf. And she is asking, what is one thing that surprised you once you got to $1 million that no one told you or prepared you for?
You don't feel any different.
I love that.
It's just, yeah, you don't feel any different. It doesn't change who you are.
Yeah, it doesn't change who you are. And that's, I've seen a quote by Oprah just yesterday. In fact, I was researching quotes and one came up with Oprah and she says, having been successful hasn't changed me. I'm still really grounded, but now I just wear better shoes. And I thought, yeah, that's so true in a way. That's a great one. That it's, you know, I think in a way when I reached, I'd had a personal goal to be my own rescue, and I hadn't really defined what being my own rescue actually was, but what I wanted to be was financially free. And when I got there, you know, it took a while for the penny to drop that I'd actually got there, because there was no fanfare. There was no marching band waiting for me at the
you were ready
and then I was like, oh, I've done it. And it was kind of like, oh, okay. And I don't know. I thought I was going to like move through some sort of mythical energy gate, or I would feel something different. And you're just you with more money.
Yeah, that is exactly it. And I think, you know, I felt financially free well before I ever got to the million.
Mm-hmm. Yes, yeah.
It's not about the figures. You know, you can have $1 million business and still not feel happy if you haven't worked on yourself.
Absolutely. I've seen it so many times where, you know, I had the pleasure once of doing readings up in Skibo Castle. It's like 2,000 a night to stay there to 5,000. And these people were, you know, multimillionaires, billionaires. And it is, you know, it doesn't always bring you happiness if we don't do an internal work first.
The true freedom, I always say, is emotional freedom. That's when you'll feel free in every other area too.
Oh, I love that. I'm going to quote you on that. The true freedom is emotional freedom. It is
come up today.
Emotions. That is very, very true indeed. I have absolutely adored this conversation that we have had. So please let everybody know where they can find you on the interwebs. We're going to definitely link it all into the show notes. So do make sure that if you are listening to this, you have loved Natasha's conversation with me as much as I have, and you want to check her out, you can do so in the show notes. But if you can't wait, or the show notes, then come ahead and tell us where we can find you, Natasha.
Oh, thank you. I really enjoyed it too. So you can find me on my website, www.natashabray.co.uk. There's actually a little quiz on there to identify your top saboteur if you want to have a go at that. It only takes 5 minutes. It's got quite a lot of information and really revealing, put it that way. So that's free, completely free on my website if you want to dig a bit more into that. I'm on Facebook as well at Natasha Bray Coach.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And I'm going to link all that in the show notes. And thank you so much for joining us on this episode. And if you've listened to this, please leave us a comment or like and share with your people. I will speak to you soon. Bye now.